Day 3 of free agency was by far the most impactful from a fantasy football perspective. Lots of running backs making decisions, a wide receiver off the board, and an offensive tackle to help an offense that really needed it. Let's hop into fantasy football winners and losers from day 3 of free agency. Miles Sanders leaving Philadelphia was not ideal for anybody, but based on the money he was going to want and their need to sign a lot of defensive players that were getting ready to leave, it was obvious that he was not going to get his deal. Instead, he ends up in a situation that quite honestly is probably the best case scenario for him. Sanders decides to sign with the Carolina Panthers for 4 years and $25 million. This is a team that's going to be built to run the football, and even with a rookie quarterback coming in, they're not going to be able to just gun it all over the place. They're going to have to establish the run, and Miles Sanders is going to be a big part of that. Now, if they draft Anthony Richardson, it's going to put Miles Sanders at a disadvantage because he's going to lose rushing touches to Anthony Richardson. But anybody else in the draft class probably won't do the same damage. Miles Sanders is a definite winner here. Yes, he left a really good situation in Philadelphia, but he landed in probably the best case scenario for him. Volume-wise in Carolina, he should still be good to go. But will that efficiency we saw in Philadelphia carry over with him? And Chuba Hubbard, who was hoping to maybe get a little bit of a larger role this year, is still going to be regulated to backup duty with Miles Sanders. He'll get touches, he'll get worked in. He's way too similar to Miles Sanders to kind of be that offset back though, so he's a loser here for me. Carolina also invested in the tight end position, luring Hayden Hurst away from the Cincinnati Bengals. They're giving Hurst just over $21 million over the next 3 years. The big winner here is going to be whatever rookie quarterback they have, because right now outside of Terrace Marshall Jr., Carolina doesn't have a whole lot of weapons for whoever they're going to be bringing in. So this is going to be really good for a quarterback to have a veteran presence to be able to rely on. Now for Hayden Hurst, is it a win for him? It's a little bit more of a loss for me than it is a win. Yes, the volume will be there and I will understand that argument and I will give that to you. However, he's leaving Joe Burrow in the Cincinnati Bengals offense for a rookie quarterback in the Carolina Panthers. However you want to cut it, however you want to argue it, yes, there'll be more volume, but that is a step down by all means. When Kansas City signed Jawan Taylor, it shocked a few people because it meant Orlando Brown would not be coming back. But one's trash is another's treasure. And Cincinnati has found treasure, inking Orlando Brown to a deal to solidify the offensive line. Bringing in Orlando Brown for $64 million over 4 years is a huge win for Joe Burrow because we know that Cincinnati offensive line has been inconsistent. And even though they invested a lot in it last year, it still showed some inconsistencies. It's also a big win for Joe Mixon. His consistency and efficiency last year also out the door. Early on, it had a lot to do with the offensive line play. Later on, you could say that yes, Joe Mixon maybe was forcing things a little too much and some of it was on him, but hopefully this is another step in the right direction for this offense. After a surprise trade last year where Jacksonville sent James Robinson to the New York Jets, he basically disappeared off the face of the earth. But now he's back in New England on an $8 million deal over the next 2 years. And for New England, honestly, I think a lot of people are going to be back on James Robinson. And listen, I was the #1 James Robinson truther. When this guy was signed as an undrafted free agent by Jacksonville, I told everybody at that time to keep an eye on him. And if Leonard Fournette was released or traded or whatever by Jacksonville, James Robinson was a guy that I thought could step up and take over that role. And that is exactly what happened. However, I also know when to cut my losses and realize that an undrafted free agent doesn't normally make an impact for an extended period in the NFL. Yeah, there are some great cases of it happening, I get that, but after coming back from his injury last year, he didn't look great. He wasn't explosive. It was just some big touchdown runs that really saved his fantasy points early on. So for some of you, you're going to use this as an excuse not to draft Ramondre Stevenson, but for me, Ramondre Stevenson is the clear winner here because James Robinson will not displace him as the starter. And not only that, James Robinson isn't going to take nearly as many touches as you all believe. Yes, New England loves to deploy more than one running back. I absolutely get that. And James Robinson will get touches. But this, to me, shows that they believe Ramondre is the bell cow in this offense. Honestly, if they didn't believe it, they would have went out and signed someone a little bit more suitable to handle a full workload than James Robinson. They would have gotten and spent the money on a David Montgomery or somebody else. But instead, this signing right here shows me, hey, Ramondre's the guy. He's going to get the touches. We just want somebody that can offset him a little bit. Also, speaking of New England, Juju SmithSchuster, he signs there 3 years, $33 million. The same exact deal that the Las Vegas Raiders gave to Jacoby Myers. And while going from Kansas City to New England, yeah, that's not much of a win for Juju. Getting a long-term deal finally after playing back-to-back one-year deals, that's a win for him. But the big winner here is Mac Jones, because after losing Jacoby Myers and trading Jonnu Smith, they needed to add some weapons for him, and I don't think New England's done. I think more guys are coming there, but Juju was a great step in the right direction. Now, my hope is that they can add an alpha type wide receiver on the outside, whether it be like a Quentin Johnson in the draft, or maybe they do go and trade for DeAndre Hopkins. But they need to get Mac Jones some more weapons, but this is a lot better than it was 48 hours ago. Alexander Madison chose to re-sign with the Minnesota Vikings for $8 million over 2 years. And maybe that might be a win for him, but it's a loss in my opinion for Dalvin Cook. There was a lot of talk this offseason about Minnesota potentially trying to move on from Dalvin Cook. And one thing that we saw last year is in-season value for running backs tends to be a little bit higher trade-wise than out of season. Re-signing a running back like Madison that is familiar with the offense and has experience in it, to me, signals that if something were to go awry and maybe Minnesota's year does not work out the way it needs to, Dalvin Cook could be on the move. And maybe it's like Christian McCaffrey, where he leaves a bad situation in Carolina and goes to a great situation in San Francisco. Maybe the same thing happens for Dalvin Cook, but that's a tough bet to make this early in the offseason. Everybody, including myself, was extremely shocked when it was announced that the Lions had signed David Montgomery to a 3-year deal. Because when that happened, it was almost certain that Jamal Williams would be out the door. And sure enough, yesterday Jamal Williams inks a 3-year deal with the New Orleans Saints. When you lead the NFL in rushing touchdowns and leave an offense like the Lions that was, let's face it, one of the better offenses in football last year, anywhere else might seem like a loss, but honestly, going to New Orleans seems like a big win for Jamal Williams. So since Williams is my winner here, Kamara is going to be my loser. I just don't see a situation where Kamara doesn't face a suspension this year. His court date's been pushed back to July already, but are they really going to head into 2023 with this thing still not figured out? I do think New Orleans realized that they could not put a full 300 touch workload on top of Alvin Kamara every single season and continue to have him be one of the better running backs in the league. So Jamal Williams is going to get a ton of third down work, short yardage work, goal line work, and he's going to be on the field quite a bit, even if Kamara is not suspended, because that means Kamara is going to be regulated to more of a receiving role again. Third downs, mismatches, maybe they do send him out into the slot, do some different things with him, and that's fine. But that means we might take a step back, because I'm sorry, a Drew Brees offense that made Kamara one of the top running backs in the leagues a few years ago is not going to be the same as a Derek Carr-led offense. The Dallas Cowboys and Ezekiel Elliott have parted ways, Zeke being released by the Cowboys, which shocked the crap out of me because he's Jerry Jones's guy. This is a massive win for Tony Pollard, because even if we don't know his health status as of yet, they used the franchise tag on him. They wanted to keep him around, and then they cut Zeke. He's going to be the guy this year. Now, will they sign a backup or draft somebody? Yes, they probably will, but Tony Pollard will be the guy this year. Yo, are there any deals that I didn't talk about from day 3 that you all feel are going to be beneficial in fantasy football? Leave them in the comments down below and let me know your thoughts. But for now, hit that like button on the way out. Appreciate everybody tuning into this video. Subscribe if you are new here, and I'll catch y'all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.